So I've been working on this game here for about a year, maybe 2 years, right? And it is a real game. I get a lot of questions of people saying, is it just for the demo purposes of YouTube? No, I am actually working to it. I've got a full story, full lore, tons of quests, dialogue, characters, everything. It's highly inspired by Fable with my own twist. So I've got like Fable's combat I'll be adding into it, and just peaceful adventureness of Fable. When you were young and you loaded the Xbox up for the first time after school or on a weekend, you put Fable in and you'd hear the music, the nice calming music as you're running through the forest or exploring your village. That kind of thing, but, with my own twist on it. But my game is quite large. I currently have 24,000 actors in it, and I have like 4 cities, 5 maybe, and I need a lot more. Because, as you can see, the world is huge, and even my computer's struggling to render it all because I've enabled everything all at once. And I've managed to make a tiny village with some practice, but I'm not a level designer, so it's going to take a long time to get that right. I've tried messing with landscapes, I've got loads of plans for it, but it doesn't all add up. And it's just quite big. And the one thing I don't want is like a lot of the modern open world games where it's open world just because it is. And it's boring. So at the moment, I can start my game at this port, I can run around, this village will be nice and bustling, it'll have people in eventually, and I'll get outside here and nothing. I have nothing at all. It's a nice landscape, yeah, it's great, I walk around here, there's nothing. There's a bridge, there's nothing. I can add NPCs, I can add bandits, animals, fine, but that's going to get boring eventually. All until you come all the way to the medieval castle, which I need to code up and get everything done. Or you go to the Egyptian realm. And they are very close together, and without some cracking lore, it's a bit weird. And I've got the Elven Society over here, if you take a boat. But the point is, I started looking at my story and what gameplay I want and everything. And I've come to the conclusion, my open world game doesn't need to be open world. So we're going to look at how I came to that conclusion today. So let's get started. So, I've had this plan for this game for ages, and I've got all the documentation, as I said at the beginning. This is very roughly what my map started out as. I wanted this world where different races, so Elvens, Knights, Egyptians, even though Knights and Egyptians are still human, but they could live at the same time. But the problem I had was trying to fit them all into one area and make it make sense. And I kind of did this design a while, at the very beginning kind of thing, where I have a main river that separates it. So I had like this unpassable mountain range here, right? And it's separated away from the Knights. So the Egyptians, I wanted a border between them. I wanted there to be a conflict. This was going to be like a battleground where everyone's fighting, And then I had the Badlands, which is all the outcasts and everybody who doesn't belong, and then the orcs and stuff. It was okay. I worked with it. I figured, I've got a basic design. If I build it up, plan it out, it'll start to look really cool, right? So I moved to a new design to start it from scratch, and I started generating things as best I could, looking online, getting map generators, trying it together. And I put my landmass in. And I was like, right, okay, the Knights are going to be up here. There's no border, but there is a fictional border between the Egyptians. You've got the outcasts. You've got my main river that separates it. The port's here. And then you've got the Elven Society here. So I started adding the river in, and then I started populating it and saying, okay, so I'll put the Knights here, there'll be towns here, there'll be a massive gap here, the Egyptians will be here, Badlands will just be completely mixed together. Basically, there's a Mad Max of the world, and then with the Elvens over here surrounded by a path and then a mountain reach. And it's okay, it's looking visually nicer, and then I started adding some mountains to it, some hills and stuff, just to show it's a busy area. Started adding foliage, like trees, so you can see, the Elvens are big on their trees, whereas everyone else has trampled it down and made it not so great. And then, once I added everything together, smoothed it up with lines and stuff, I had a map. And yes, it looks like an okay map, it works, but it still suffers from the same problem, that I've got a lot of areas to design here. I've been working on this map here for ages, and this port here, I've got the houses, I've optimised them, put patrol points in and everything, right? And yes, it is technically possible to design my world as a big open world, but then I've got to start thinking, well, say this village ends here, well, what do I want to do here all the way down to there? I ain't got a clue. I could research, yes, of course, I'd bandits, tents, quests, it could just be a travel zone, all that other stuff. But then I started thinking back to how does Fable do it? Because that's what I'm inspired by for my game. It's not going to be a copy of Fable, absolutely not. It will be, I like the system Fable uses. And I started looking at Fable's map and thinking, it's not open world. Well, it is, and it isn't. You are free to explore. But it's kind of this mixture of a linear open world or a segmented open world, because Fable itself is actually technically mini levels. You've got this little one here, Bowerstone, right there. It's a nice big village area. But you can't just travel all the way down to Greatwood. You go through separate levels to get there. So I was thinking, okay, interesting. Look at the size of Fable's map. It is absolutely huge if you think about it. You've got the mountains. From here, how long would it take to run all the way down to Twin Blades 10? In the game, it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But it's an absolutely massive map. How have they accomplished this? And that's when I clicked on, it's not open world. It's a grid-based miniature map, open world system thing. So I started thinking about that for my game and thinking, do I realistically need all of this? All these little areas here? Like, I wanted something to explain how the Knights and the Egyptians area matches up, and I've just clashed them together at the moment and plan to do it in the future. It's really weird to do, and then I'm going to have to start looking into loads of optimizations in Unreal, because all of this at the moment is 24,000 actors. That's a lot of actors in this map. And yes, when I had the Knight's Castle, it'll reduce it and all that other stuff. But that still is a lot to do, and then I have to learn optimization and everything. Whereas with Fable, you don't need to learn any of that. Well, you'll need to know some of it. But if you're in Bowerstone, it doesn't care about Twin Blades 10s at all. So then I started going back to my map here and thinking, well, what are the main areas I want the player to actually explore in my area? So I started outlining them in a grid system like so, thinking, well, I want the Elven's main home to be one. I want the forest above, because I've already wrote the mission, what leads bandits into this area. And I want the below part. I think that'd be cool to have a forest you can explore, see the river and stuff. And then I go around. I definitely need the secret dungeon path, because that's a key thing full of mountains and stuff. Knights, the gap in the middle, the Egyptians. This area here, which I've got a giant mountain I want to sit somewhere. Like, we're talking Skyrim's big mountain somewhere. I've got loads of quests for that, but I didn't know where to put it. And I was like, I've got an empty area here. This works quite well. And then I've got the Badlands, I've got the lower Badlands, and I've got the left of the Badlands, so you can see across the river. And I'm looking at it going, if I were to just cut out everything I'm not using, that's quite a lot less work to do. And I actually ran the calculations on this, looking at the pixels. All of this black here equates to 40% of this map here. Meaning, if I don't have to do that, everything in the black dark tie area, it will be 40% less work to design my world, which is awesome. But the other thing that Fable inspired me by was, this map is absolutely huge, but it feels small if you know what you're looking for. If you want to run from, Bowerstone all the way down to Twin Blades 10, you just run in one direction, you'll get there, right? And it doesn't take long. But yet, the map itself is absolutely huge. So you can get away with explaining how completely different landscapes, from the woods up here, to the forest here, to the mountainous region, to the barren desert here, available, has somehow managed to work together in this world. So with my map, where I wanted a way to explain how the Knights and the Egyptians were so close, if I start gridding it out, I don't need to essentially worry about that, because I can leave it to the player's imagination that they've come in from the Knights region and they've gone and hit this level area here to move to the next area. And this area, for all the player knows, is a huge distance away for the next area, which means I can then start almost building the merging areas in. So even though I want the Knights and the Egyptians to be close so they can be in conflict, this area can be as big or as small as I want it to be. So that really started pushing my ideas now, thinking, well, I've been struggling to find how to put a giant mountain into the middle of my game, for example. So here, I've got a big mountain that I wanted. But every time I'd started looking at level designers and stuff like that, it'd mess up the Egyptian area, it'd mess up the Badlands, the river would get all skewy. It just wouldn't work very well. And yes, with practice, I'll crack it and do everything I need. I started messing around with Wonderscape here, right? Just to see if I can build my level up, test it out. And yes, this doesn't look anything like mine, but I found that I was adding a mountain here, you know, the big mountain, add the paths up and stuff. It's not what I wanted specifically to my game's idea, but it was testing it out. But then I'd add this mountain, which would change all of this and put hills up here. Look, there's a random hill next to this village now. And obviously, if you're a massive world user, you've built landscapes before, this is all going to be dead easy to you. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's why you're doing. It's all new to me. I'd put a lake here, and it wouldn't lake it. It'd just like leave these giant things in the middle. This is just something I need to get used to, right? Even this cuts it up into grids, look, as I click along it. And even more, it's starting to solidify it, going, do I really need this to be open world? And the more and more I think about it, I can level transition these really easily. So if I were to come in and set this elven landscape up here, right? It can be its own world, its own level, data layer, anything I want. I can put as many resources into that I want to make that feel lived in and what I want. And then when you come over to here, I could just have loads of trees blocking this off so you can't get through, and loads of trees here. And I can have a doorway, essentially, an invisible doorway. And as you enter through this, it fades to black, or whatever I decide to do. You come out to the other end, and I've unloaded all of this and loaded all this back in, meaning my worlds can now be very big if I wanted them to be, or as small as I wanted it. So that's what I'm planning with my open world game here. It's still going to be an open world game because that's what I want. I want the player to explore. I want them to go to areas they've not found, discover new secrets, find hidden quests, hidden loot. That's what I want. But this is becoming really difficult to manage, and to build the lore into it as well is becoming even more difficult. So that's what we're now going to start aiming to do. I'm going to split my world up here into segmented chunks that I can load in and out and have transitions between them. So instead of it being all open world, it will have a hard lock on it. So for instance, when I'm in the Elven Society here, and I can run around, I can't see anything over there. So it doesn't need to exist. And when I come here and, get on this boat to move over to there, I can just fade that out instead and then make it come over here, and I can load this small area here. And then when I say get to this part here, this can be the end of my level, have a gate or something, then it will transition to the next area, which for me, I can skip all of this because I don't need it. I might have a little path where you can come up here and see the waterfall I've done because I really like this waterfall. I really like the gates with design. So little areas like that. Even Fable has off-branching areas here. So you can see, as far as I'm aware, the bigger the circles, the more content it has in it, if you wish. It really means it's a landscape, a map, and all that other stuff. So you can see here, like Bowerstone is a big one. Heroes Guild is a big one. Lookout Point is a smaller one. And I can do this same rough structure in my game to make it how I want. And then that means, theoretically, as you're over here, in the Knights area, if you run down this path and say you come to these blocks here, I can just have trees going down. And as you run forwards, you transition out, it unloads all of that, puts some low poly equivalent in, so if you do look round you can see it. But then I can essentially come into something like this, where I can run around, it can turn into desert, there can be rivers, little bandits or something, I can be travelling down, and as I come around, it can hit another level transition, which then opens me up into the Egyptian area, like this. When I fix the landscape and, all that other stuff I want, I can come out into something like this, where I want the Egyptian area. And it's going to give me so much more power to really customize it without having to spend eons working on optimization. Optimization is good, it always is, but then I can be more flexible with it, and I don't have to worry about joining everything together. So I know what you're expecting now. You're hoping that I'm going to show you a result. I don't have a result. At least not yet. But I do have some basic in-place demos that I'm going to show off shortly. But for most of what we're going to do, we've kind of already covered it on the channel already. If you've seen my 3-part doors tutorial, we made a door system that was incredibly powerful. This door here can either load a data layer. So you can see as my game's still loading, I've lost my entire body for some reason. But you can see inside this house is completely empty if you look through the little port, right? But as soon as I click open, the door opens and everything loads inside. So it can spawn in data layers, it can simply open itself, it can combine with multiple doors if I want to, or, like this door here, it can open a brand new level. And if we just exchange that door for a cave entrance, or an actual door if we want one, or even just an invisible box that acts when you touch it, all of these are already available. So it's been about a week, and I've been planning and plotting, and then I started working on what the plan was. And you can see my world hasn't actually got everything visible at the moment. There's a big elven one over there, but I've deleted the layer to sort it out, and all of the stuff like this. The game's not bad. In the editor, it runs at like 40-50 FPS, which is just down to the sheer amount of actors I've got. Like at the moment, there's 19,000 actors loaded in here, and then there'd be an extra 6,000 if the elven range was loaded. But the plan that I've got was to split it all up, as we said earlier. But what I've been doing in the meantime is actually going ahead and doing it, splitting it up. So I went through and I started grouping specific areas. So this one is the port that we start off every YouTube tutorial with. And then I started labeling them all on what it's going to be, and then seeing where the paths are connecting to it. And I've gone from this to this. So you can see it's a lot more broken down. It might look odd that you can just see it like this, but if any of you have ever watched Boundary Break on YouTube, you know exactly what this is. And like there, you can see on the Resident Evil one, all I've basically done is added this and remove the landscape where we don't need it anymore. So take this round here, look. When you're stood here, you can't see it. Like that, I want to cover up. I need to find little bits for like that. But at the moment, you can't tell there's no landscape all the way over there. As you run down here, you can't tell. It does start to break down where I ran out of time for testing, like when you get to there kind of thing, so I'll add some more trees and such. But as you're walking around, it looks normal, which is exactly what I want. But the key difference is that I now have these new invisible door blueprints here. And what these do is connect and jump to the other data layers. So we are in L1 at the moment, right here. And you can see we had two doors crudely drawn in green here. When I go to the left side, that loads L2 or location 2, unloads location 1 and switches you over and moves you around. And you can see you can travel all the way around. This is a very simple blueprint. All it does is when you run into it, it's got some variables on it, which says which data layer are you unloading, so that would be this one, and which data layer are you loading, that one over there. You can see I've put giant labels in the sky so I can see where everything is. Location 3 is there. I think I must have hit it. Oh, there you go. It's right there, look. You can see I'm running between 30 and 80 FPS in the editor, so we've had a lot better of a boost. I need to find why there's the occasional drop, but I think it's due to the foliage I'm using. I don't think it's optimized as well as I want it to be. But then all it does is fade out, switch you over, and then teleport you to the correct place. So here, it's got a linked door on it, which is just another invisible door variable of the one it needs to go to. So in this case, that one. You can see this one looks very empty. That's because the data layer is unloaded. So if I come and load in the data layer for location 3, you can see everything's populated. That's what it will look like. Unfortunately, you can't hide the landscapes or the foliage. It doesn't let you add that to the data layers, but that's fine. And you can see I've linked a lot of them up. So if I just play from here, so I'll always start in location 1 for most of it, but you can see it looks like there's nothing there, right? But if I run up, the screen starts to fade to black and I've teleported over. I need to toy with it a little bit, add maybe a loading screen or something, but you can see I've officially teleported all the way over. That's where we were. It does look a bit dodgy here. Again, I need to hide it and everything. But as we run down, you can see we are officially moved over. Down there would lead you to location 2, which I've not set up yet. But if we do follow the path, it looks really dodgy here. I'm having some really weird bugs with Unreal's landscapes. I think it's just because I've upgraded it from 5.1 all the way to 5.7. I think Unreal's finally given up. But as I run this way, you can see it fades out. And then you can see the red line there. I'll explain that in a moment. So you can see we're now in the knight's place, look. You can see you can run down that path, but there's nothing there. It's taking a minute to just buffer the shaders in the editor, but I've now officially come to the nights area. I can come all the way back, so I can come in. And as I run through, it will fade out, and I'll come back to this place here. So location 3, you can see at the top I added the little UI so I know where I am. I can run down here. And as we get over to here, I don't think I've set the doorway up over there yet, so I'm not going to run that way. As I run down here, it fades out, and I'm back here. There we go, yeah, so I ran that way. I reduced the delay time when it fades out, and I've got a feeling it might have been a mistake now because it worked quite well. It gave you that breather. This just looks like you're teleporting, you know. But you can see I'm all the way in layer 2. This one's... Oh, I teleported way too far there. Okay. Yeah, so the door is apparently blocking me, so we'll run up this way to bypass it. You see, I've added the little bandit camp thing. And if you're a long-time viewer of the series, you'll recognise that because that's what used to be a quest. We've got the standing stones. Somewhere up there, I believe, is the praying stones. Yeah, there you go. That's where you can solve the puzzle. And we have the waterfall with the guardian doors. It does look a bit odd that way. I need to sort that out, figure out a way to do it. But you can see, it's all here. And you can see more of the Unreal glitches I'm having there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So my game is open world, but not open world. And I'm absolutely going to disguise it, make it look like you are changing levels. You may be asking, why didn't I just change levels? When you're building your game, when you change levels, Unreal physically unloads everything, so everything on the map, and then changes it. So that's going to be a bit slower to do than just toggling a data layer that's mostly already loaded in, essentially. But you also have to transport everything you're saving. So if you kill an NPC and change levels, you need to remember that that NPC was killed. Whereas if you just change a data layer, you don't have to remember it. So I've kind of got the benefits of open world games, but I've not got any of the performance hits, which is fantastic. And if you imagine all of these extra areas that I would have had to tidy up and fill in with more stuff, it would have got really boring. Whereas with this one, I could just put patrol points in this area and be done with it. Those AI will run around. When the data layer unloads, all those AI will stop, and then I can toggle the ones over there. So it gives me micro levels, which is really, really nice. I mentioned about the red lines over in the nights area. So a data layer has 3 states. It has unloaded, it has loaded in memory but invisible, and then it has activated, which is it's visible. So you can see how long it's just took for me to enable that checkbox to load it into memory, and then I can make it visible, right? All of mine start off unloaded. You can see it's unloaded because the landscape stays in memory. If I load it and then enable it, it's super, super quick. Whereas if I look at the nights one, if I load it into memory, you have to wait for a moment, look, as it's loading all those models into memory, and then I can make it visible. So what I found was when I was teleporting my character over here, he was falling through the floor because it didn't load. So what I found out is we just teleport the character into the right place and then disable his gravity so he's just floating there for a moment when the screen's all black. And then we fire a line trace down every 0.1 second, 0.2, something like that. And as soon as it detects something, we know it's loaded, we can drop him in, which is why he doesn't fall through the floor. As for the landscape issues I'm having, if anyone knows the answer, please let me know, because I'm like so close to just binning it off and just starting all the landscapes again. But if I come to my landscape tool, painting, and make sure I'm on location 2, you can see it's all black. But if I paint over it, it disappears. But if I let go, it will come back eventually. And it keeps doing weird stuff like that. So like this one here, look. If I paint a dirt path on here, it fixes it. And then it's kind of glitched out. It won't let me paint on top of this one, look. So it's really been really odd and very glitchy. Like if I come over to this one, it might look that I've intersected it, but I haven't. So if I paint cobblestone on here, you see it fixes it just by clicking, but then it'll come back later. And these are just the weird bugs that I'm having. And it's actually being nice to me at the moment. But this one over here has been really glitchy, and this is a new landscape as well. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out why it's glitching out so much. It does look awful at the moment. That's just because I need to enable everything. Look, there we go. It's like this bit here, look. I've clearly not perfectly painted it to be a different colour. So if I click the base, I just tap once on it after selecting the right landscape, disappears. It's super weird. And it'll just come back after I reload. Same here. Click off. Click off. See, it's so weird the way it's doing it. Like that one won't even go away, look. I'm painting over it and it just keeps doing it. There you go. But yeah, really weird bugs. But that is the video. That is me removing the open world from my open world game, but keeping the open world essentially. If anyone wants a tutorial on the data layer on the door, let me know below and I'll stick that in a new video. It's basically just the standard door system we created, but I've just gone over and heavily modified it to do multiple data layer specific stuff, essentially. But yes, let me know if you want to see that. And yes, eventually I will be patching this up, blocking off with trees, adding some mountains, you know, stuff to make it so as you're running around, you can't see where you're not supposed to see. So like all of that looks awful, I'm aware. That you can't tell at all. That just looks like a normal mountain. I can run over here. It looks all good. It looks a bit there, but we can sort that. And as I walk down here, you can see it looks just like a normal path. So I'm going to run down. It fades out. Definitely going to increase that time because it just jolts too fast. It needs to be artificial. It's not a teleport in a game's perspective. Yeah, there you go. You can see this one's come back, look, glitched out again. But yeah, like here as well, I've put trees and a wall all the way around just to block it off. It looks awful, but you never actually get that far enough to see it. So as you run down here, look, you can kind of see it until I block it off, but it looks like essentially it goes on forever. And at this point, you've already teleported over. So there we go. There's still a ton of things I need to figure out with this. It is by no means a everybody should move to this at the moment. It's an idea I've had, and it's an idea I'm rolling with. But other things like the minimap, I haven't quite sorted out yet. So if I teleport in here, look, you can see the minimap thinks I'm floating in blue for some reason. I need to figure little bits like that out. I am definitely tempted to recreate most of the landscape anyway, using a proper tool with PCG instead of me manually painting things, because it just doesn't look very good. I'm not an artist. But yeah, it lets me theme the worlds in different areas now, and that's it. If I ever want to expand it, I can just add another data layer and a way across to it, block things off, and essentially that's it. I'm really tempted to add almost skylines around. So Batman Arkham City is the one that I think I can show you that does it the best, but tons and tons of other games do it. Can we see it in the game? Yeah, so that's it, look. So if you've played Batman Arkham City, if you haven't, you're Batman, you run around the city. Great. But you see you are surrounded by water, right? And all of this here looks like they've modelled this massive city down here, thanks Unreal, and this massive city back here. But they actually haven't. This is just a picture of a city on one long billboard. That's it. That's all it is. And I'm really tempted to do something like that. So another example of boundary break, because he goes into all of this. In Simpsons Hit and Run, you can see if you come outside of the house, you've just got all these billboards up here. Looks terrible in the engine, but when you're playing the game, it fits absolutely perfectly. Can we get to one where it's in the middle of it? Yeah, it's basically going into everything, but that's the point I mean. Like all that there, look, all these buildings are skyline buildings. You can't get to them, but gives you the perception that it's much bigger than it is. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is my discussion thing on turning my open world game and removing the open world from it. So it's quite unique. If you've got any tips or tricks for it, please let me know below. If you'd like to see anything more on this, like, you know, the invisible doors or how I got around a certain issue, please let me know. Thanks for watching. My name is Decryption, and I will see you next time.